Hello everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Republican Forum. My name is Peter Linares, a 25-year resident of Bridgewater, Mass, and the co-chair of the local Republican Town Committee. I would like to invite any of our fellow Bridgewater Republicans to join our committee, so please feel free to reach out to me at peter.bridge.rtc@gmail.com. We also have a Telegram group and a Facebook page that you can see at the bottom of your screen. A quick update with regards to our local Republican Town Committee here in Bridgewater. Since I have been heavily involved in the local committee that we run here, I have recently passed the wand from me to Debbie Johnson, who graciously took on the role of the newest Republican Town Registrar and now sits alongside Christine Porter as a Republican on the Board of Registrars for the town of Bridgewater. As you may or may not know, each town must have 2 Democratic registrars and 2 Republican registrars to serve on the Board of Registrars. I held this position for just over a year, so thank you, Debbie Johnson, for stepping up to the plate and helping our town remain in compliance with our town registrar's regulations. I will continue to co-chair the RTC for now while I work on other Republican projects both here in the town and at the state level. Now I'd like to briefly talk about the town election that occurred on April 22nd. I would like to congratulate all the winners, and more importantly, the town of Bridgewater voted on the debt exclusion to allow an increase in our taxes for many years to fund the new Bristol Plymouth Vocational School. Out of the 18,600 registered voters here in Bridgewater, we had just shy of 1,000 voters turn out to vote in this past election. That is approximately 6% of the voters making decisions for our entire town. I only mention this because in the future I would love to see more of the Bridgewater residents come out to vote so that we have a larger majority of our residents making decisions for our town. One final note on voting and candidates: I have now been involved in the last 3 voting cycles, a few at the town level and 1 at the state level. At the town level, I have witnessed many uncontested seats, whether it be for our town council, trustees of the library, or school committee. I only mention this because I would love to see and encourage our town residents to get involved. It would be nice to have a selection of individuals to choose from for the various seats, which would create more excitement to vote and also to create more competition. We all know that competition is a good thing. It makes things better. Bridgewater does currently have over 28,000 residents, so again, I encourage our residents to get involved in the various town committees to help make a difference and to have an opportunity to have a voice in how our government serves its people. So please get involved to help out. All of these committees can be found on our website, which is the bridgewatermass.org, under committees, and as is a side thing that you can click on to see the committees themselves. Okay, so enough on that. Let's turn to our topics for this evening. Tonight, our special guests here that I have with me, Paul Criscuolo and Jay McMahon. Our topic and discussions will be around our Republican state committees and the local RTCs.
Hey, Hard, what's this?
That's my resignation letter.
You're resigning. Why?
Because you're constantly ignoring me. You're half as active as you used to be, and you get stuff like this. You've been putting me under a lot of pressure lately. That's why I'm ready to quit.
I forgot. I'll do better. Please, don't quit on me.
Okay, but remember, it's not what you say, it's what you do.
Listen to your heart. Don't let it quit on you.
Let's go for a walk.
Uncontrolled high blood pressure could lead to a stroke, heart attack, or death. Get yours to a healthy range before it's too late.
All right, welcome back, Jay and Paul. I'd just like to have you both introduce yourselves first. So, Jay, why don't we start with you?
Hi, I'm Jay McMahon. I'm an attorney from Buzzards Bay. I'm the 2018 and 2022 Republican candidate for Attorney General for Massachusetts. and I'm also the state committee man for Massachusetts Republican State Committee for the Plymouth and Barnstable District. I've got 6 towns this time around. Next year I got 2 towns being added, but right now I got Pembroke, Kingston, Plymouth, and then Bourne, Sandwich, and Falmouth. I will be getting Mashpee in Barnstable County and Plimpton in Plymouth County. And Peter, it's good to have you. Thank you for having me back.
Thank you for coming back. And Paul, why don't you give yourself an introduction there?
Hi. Yeah, I'm from Mattapoisett, Massachusetts. Moved there full-time about 5 years ago. Retired executive who's kind of still doing consulting work, and saw a need to revive the Republican Party in Mattapoisett that had really been dormant for almost 8 years. On paper, 3, but in reality not really functioning. And when I got involved, I realized the surrounding towns as well, that there was a need to unify and get people involved again in Republican politics because we really didn't have a voice, and there was no place for a lot of the voters to look for support other than to the Democratic Party.
I've been witness to that too here in Bridgewater. I've had some issues with the RTC, but it's coming along and things are much better.
Yes.
So as you both know, I brought you both here tonight because I really wanted to talk about a couple of topics. One is just really the state of the Republican State Committee, as well as to talk about our local RTC. So Jay, I was wondering if you probably can first talk to us about, the probably the state of the Mass Republican State Committee, like where are we at with things, how are they doing? Maybe you can give us a bit of that.
Okay, so the state committee for both parties, the Massachusetts Democratic Party and the Massachusetts Republican Party, they're both established by statute. And they each have, the committee is made up of 80 members. And it's based on senatorial districts in Massachusetts. There are 40 senatorial districts in Massachusetts, that is state senators. And in those districts, there is a committee man and a committee woman who are voted in every presidential primary. So it's a 4-year term. It doesn't pay anything, but it's by statute. So even though the Mass GOP, Massachusetts Republican State Committee, it's not a government entity, but people vote for the state committee people. They vote by, and you have to run for this. So you actually got to get 50 signatures, and the nomination papers are green. So you get 50 Republican signatures on them. You submit them to the Secretary of the Commonwealth, and then you get on the ballot for your senatorial district. That's what I had to do. That's what everybody has to do. So theoretically, there are 80 committee members, 1 man and 1 woman from each senatorial district for both parties. The Republicans have theirs and the Democrats have theirs. And that's how the committees work. And then the committees elect their own officers. You elect the chairman, which during my time, for the most of my time, for the last 3 years, has been Jim Lyons. They recently replaced him. It was a close election. That was just a couple of months ago in January. He lost by 3 votes. He was a conservative. And and he's not a member of the state committee, because you don't have to be a member of the state committee to run for chairman. But it sure does help to be a committee man, to be a chairman. Most of the other offices, in fact, all of them, are committee people. So Peter, that's the makeup of it. That's how it is. And right now, the way the 80 members break out is that there are 3 particular groups. It's just how it is with the members. So of the 80 members, there's a particular groups, 3 of them. One of them, the largest group now, it wasn't in January, but we've had a couple of caucuses. A caucus is where you fill in for a state committee person who either resigns, dies, or otherwise cannot take up their position as a committee person. So we've had several caucuses, and each of those caucuses have been won by the conservative candidate. It happened right here in this district, where Maria Collins is now on, and I'm looking forward to working with Maria Collins. So right now we have a 1-vote majority. We didn't always have that majority. We were the largest minority group. So we always had between 37, 38 members as conservative groups. The others are made up of the next largest minority group is the, I would call them the liberal Republicans.
Okay.
Other people call them other names. One of them is rhinos.
I call them Rockefeller Republicans. I'm old.
Okay, all right. So, but some of them call them rhinos. But nonetheless, they are the next largest. And then there's a handful of committee people like to consider themselves as moderates.
Okay.
They almost always vote with us, with the conservatives.
Okay.
But they didn't this time for Jim Lyons. And so Jim Lyons lost his re-election bid, his second re-election bid. He lost by three votes.
Okay. And then, I understand that the committee's had a lot of issues, and like it's sort of like on, is it sort of a weak committee, or is it we're having issues with that? I don't know if maybe Paul, you can talk a little bit about that as to what's going on with that
Committee,
current.
you mean individual committee members?
Yeah.
I think, Peter, what's happening, and I think Jay summed up kind of the big picture, there's kind of a dichotomy of what seems to be between one, what is the role of the state committee and what are the role of the RTCs and their chairs.
Right.
And there appears to be, I know in my district, I was just in Westport last night. I visited the Fairhaven RTC meeting a couple nights before. I've been to Dartmouth, I've been to Rochester, and none of the chairs feel that they are being supported by their committee members. Now, I would say that you can speak specifically to that one district, but I also belong to an RTC talk group, which is going to be up in, up in North this Saturday. I've been going now for about 9 months, and there's 10 or 15 other chairs from the North that are there, and they feel the same way. And that's that we basically have an influx of people coming into the party, like myself and others, who are very motivated by the Trump revolution per se, not so much Trumpsters, but the idea of making government work and taking back the party and making it strong. What we have is appears a lot of leadership who doesn't think the same way. And there's this idea that almost that we're supposed to disappear and be quiet, and then on election time when you need all the work done, you can call us and we can come out and do it all, but then go back into your box and be quiet. Well, the chairs don't want to put up with that any longer.
Yeah.
Now, something recently happened, which I think is interesting. I don't think it was a conspiracy, but I think they're trying to update the list of all the RTC chairs on the website. And that's happened in the past where it disappears for a day or two or maybe a week or two. It's disappeared now, I've been told, for at least 4 weeks. I didn't see it originally, but I have seen it disappear. There's a belief in a lot of the chairs that's been done on purpose. I can't say that has or hasn't been done, but it shows an insensitivity by leadership that they don't really understand how their chairs feel, and if they would think that way, that they would actually take their names down so they can't be contacted by others. And it shows, I think, what's that dichotomy that's there, and it needs to be fixed.
Right.
You know, Peter, and that is a problem in the Mass GOP. And my sympathies are completely with guys like Paul. When I met Paul, and this is how Paul and I became friends, I met Paul when I was a candidate. He had a candidates forum. He was the chair of Mattapoisett. And I remember saying to my wife, this is interesting what Mattapoisett is doing. I didn't see any of that 4 years ago, in 2018, when I was running. And yet, he was supporting candidates, and he said, "Can you come to a forum?" I said, "I'd be glad to go." And I saw the way he ran the meeting. I could see that his passion in it, and he apparently liked what he heard from me. And we instantly became good friends, and we've been talking ever since. The problem is if I can say it correctly, the rhino part of the state committee, they don't pay attention to their local RTCs.
Exactly.
A lot of them don't even show up at the meetings. I try to go to every meeting unless there's a conflict, then I'll have to pick one, and I'll pick one that they have a controversial issue so I can be there and weigh in. Now, we don't run those meetings. Our job is not to run them, and we work for them. They don't work for us. Each RTC is separate. But I do what I can to shepherd issues through, get them information if they need it, and do all that kind of stuff. And so I have a good solid base with my RTCs, but not so in Paul's district. And so he and I are talking all the time. when his committee people should be helping and they're not. I'll give you a perfect example. He invited me to a meeting. I wound up going, and I saw a lot of local RTC chairs at that meeting. Sat down, we're talking with issues. The committee people for those RTCs were nowhere to be found. And it's a disgrace when they do that. I almost want to say, why do they bother running for these committee seats if they're not going to do the work? And so Paul came up with a solution, and what he's done is just bypass them and meet with the other RTC
Well,
chairs.
so here in Bridgewater, I mean, I'm experiencing the same thing. I'm the victim to that because my local committeeman never shows up. But now we have Maria Collins, and she's come to a couple of them.
She is going to be a great committee person.
She's really good support. I really like that.
Through Jay, I realized she was running, and I went up to, I'm not sure which meeting it was I attended. I can't think what town. I've been to so many, but just to be there to hear her speak and to support her, and to see, to pass the message that, we have a movement going in the party that is trying to do not to be a secondary party, but to be a primary party, to be a party that can eventually be in leadership and to take over the state. It's not going to happen today, or maybe not tomorrow, but in a few years of hard working, we can actually make a powerhouse of a party. And to accept secondary, position, to me is almost kind of from the movie The Natural. Losing is a disease.
Right.
I almost seem like they think they're going to lose before they start.
Right. Well, what I'm hoping for is that we can work more collectively together, because it seems like there's too much of a divide, or we don't have the help, or the RTCs don't get the help they need to help them grow because they're not really sure what they're doing.
Well, Peter, I'll tell you, I'm very lucky because there's someone in RTC, Bill Reedy, who took over the chairmanship from me. I stepped down from the chairmanship so that I could work on a project. And that's to basically create a coalition. I call it the South Coast Coalition. And we had a phone call amongst some of the members. We realized at the moment we're in the middle of campaigns, and we're kind of busy doing that. So after the campaign season is over in June, we'll reconvene and start to bring all of the South Coast RTCs together. Our state committee people are welcome to join us.
Okay.
They haven't really done that in the past. So we're hoping that we can figure out how to grab the resources that we need, using the things of modern campaigning, getting out the early vote, doing the door knocking with apps, and phone calling with apps, and doing the texting, all the things that have to be done to compete with the Democrats who are using those techniques. And because of the way the state districts are set up versus the state rep districts, it's pretty confusing to figure out in a coalition amongst ourselves, where we all work together and where we don't. I work with Marion, Fairhaven, and Rochester for our state rep seat, but my state senate seat, Rochester and Marion aren't part of. So that's where the state committee needs to help us, to kind of herd us together.
Right, yeah.
So I'm doing it ad hoc,
Yeah.
but I wish that the state committee was doing it, helping us with the resources and bringing us people that would help us get ready for the election coming in 2 years.
Exactly, and I'm hoping that, I just hope that happens, and I'm more than willing to help all of you out to get us more of because I consider almost like Mattapoisett in Bourne, where Jay's from, it's like sort of the south coast, and I feel like Bridgewater is a little bit on the north side of it, but I'm certainly willing to help all that out.
I'll tell you what, in my district, most of the towns are cooperating with each other, just like he's doing, but he's taken the lead in that, not his committee people.
Okay.
At least in mine, I'm trying to get them all talking. And I'll tell you what the result is. For instance, now they got a state rep in his district, guy named Strauss. He should have been defeated. He could have been defeated. He thinks he's there he thinks he's been appointed to that position.
Oh.
And he's going to lose next time because he's terrible with respect to his constituents. He's brought nothing over to the district, and these guys are working hard. They have a good candidate lined up, and they're going to do what is needed to do it. In my case, in my district, we got 3 Republican state reps: Matt Maratori out of Plymouth, David Vieira out of Falmouth, and Steve Exaros, who's he lives in one of the precincts in West Barnstable, which goes from West Barnstable all the way to my town in Bourne. And we're keeping those guys in there. But we got a long ways to go to get more Republican state reps. But we're going to do it, and we're going to do it in the next cycle.
All right. did you have another comment? Oh,
No, I think I agree. I think that's exactly what it's about. It's about winning elections. You know, we're in the middle right now of some school board races, which are pretty hot and heavy, but we're building up and getting people involved who have never been involved in politics before, at least in a long time. We're building up, you know, basically by repetition, strengths in areas of opportunity.
So that kind of leads into the next question here about, you know, how can a Republican actually win an election here in Massachusetts? I don't know, do you have some comments on that, Jay? or-
Well, okay, so I'll tell you what. I don't take my advice from the Democrats. However, Bill Galvin, the Secretary of the Commonwealth, he said that if the Republicans don't learn how to deal with mail-in ballots, they're
Oh,
doomed
yeah.
to failure.
Yeah, I've
now,
heard
he
that.
said that. Did I like hearing that? No.
No, right.
Did the leadership of the Republican Party like hearing that? No. Because we like to be vocal and do standouts. The Dems could care less about standouts. They go to the actual voter and they bring the application for the mail-in ballot. Or sometimes they just come out from the Secretary of State's office anyway. They just somehow they do that. Okay, so what do we need to do? We need to focus, the Republicans need to focus on their group. In other words, this is what they need to do. They need to get a list of all the people that voted in the last election. You can get those from your town clerk's office. Then you get the list of all the Republicans. Find out the ones who did not vote. Those are the ones you visit them. You give them an application for a mail-in. You say, you obviously can't find the precinct house. So here's an application, mail in, get your ballot, here's some literature, you're a Republican, here are the Republican candidates that are running. We will find hundreds of thousands of those voters in
So
Massachusetts.
you just say we have to get out there and help facilitate
We
this.
got to get out there and give them an application. You don't go to vote for whatever reason. Here, get the mail-in ballot, fill it out. You don't have to go to the ones that went there because they participate in the electorate and they know who they're voting for. Then, if you got the resources, you do the same thing for the ones who are the independents, the unenrolled.
Yeah.
That's everybody but the Dems. You go to them, make your case to them with your mailings, with your knocking on their doors, and the ones who don't vote with an application to get a mail-in ballot.
Because I know that you can also see the active voters too, right? Because I know, so you're talking about the ones that are more or less like the Republicans or independents that are inactive or maybe only voted once or twice in the last.
Yeah, you get the loyals, the lazies, and the leaners, right?
Yeah.
Here's the point. You don't have to go to the Republicans who vote.
Yes,
They
right.
already know what
Okay.
they're doing.
All right, just
You
clarifying.
go to the Republicans who didn't vote.
Yeah, okay.
Then you go to the unenrolls who didn't vote.
Okay.
And you visit them personally. Your next target after that are the unenrolled who voted. And that's it. If the Dems vote for us, they don't vote for us because they like what we look like or they like what we're saying. They are looking at an issue that is dear for them. For instance, the Dems that voted for me, they voted for me because they knew I stood for the Second Amendment and they have guns and they stand for the Second Amendment. Those people voted for me.
Okay.
But they will vote because they see where you stand in the media.
Yeah.
And if they're interested in that issue, if they're issue oriented, they will vote for Republicans. But other than that, they will do pretty much what the Republicans do. They will stay voting for their particular ones. You got to go after the people who are registered but are not voting.
Okay. And
I
Paul,
was
did you
going
have-
to say, you know, and that's why Jay and I get along because we think a lot alike in the same ways. The more practical, you know, in the sense of putting it into numbers, Mattapoise is a small town, you know, basically 7,000 people. We have roughly 450 registered Republicans. There's about 725, 30 registered Democrats, and the vast majority of the other, making up 3,000 total voters, are unaffiliated. So we have worked on the list he's talking about. We've gone out there. We've had some people help us put this voter list together. We now have 1,600 contacts. We think we need 12 to 1,300 votes to win these upcoming elections for the school boards and for select board. So we think we have enough people to contact. In the past, we didn't do that. Now, kind of bringing it backwards a bit, in the last election, which was the gubernatorial election, we thought we did our job we assumed that we'd only have about 12 or 1,300 votes as a majority to carry that based on past performances.
Yeah.
So on election day, we went out and did all the things you normally do. We didn't do all of the door knocking, though we did some. We didn't do any of the phone contact, but we did a lot of activity and writing and meetings and things of that nature. We got our vote out. On election day in Mattapoisett, every Republican candidate that ran on the ticket, except one, won. And she only lost by about 20 votes. Yet, we had an election that had 78% turnout, which is presidential numbers. We didn't
that's
account on that. Of that, 48.5% of that was early balloting,
Wow.
and that went 75% Democrat.
Oh, within that 48.
Yeah, so we ended up losing every single race. The only race that we actually won, I think, in that town was basically maybe for district attorney. That may be it. And other than that, and that shows you the power of early balloting. It shows you also Bill Strauss spent about $75,000 on his campaign. He is very well endowed by the lobbyists who are part of he's on the transportation committee. And if you look at his donations, he always has $90,000 to $100,000 in there as a state rep. We spent $10,000. However, if we had done the early balloting, we probably could have had a much closer race. And I feel, as the head of the party, I never anticipated that turnout.
Right.
But it's a learning lesson, and it's not going to happen again.
That's right. That's what we do. We look back, we learn, we find solutions to that, and then we implement
No,
them.
I love those ideas, and I'm willing to help out when we get there.
And that's why we need to get together as a team and get those resources. Individually, none of us have the resources to get that data, to get to the red dialer, to get all the things that do the things we need, do the texting.
Yeah.
Bill Strauss can do that in my district because he has the money. But collectively, I've been contacting. We can, as a team, get together. And because our districts aren't that large, the minimum cost to do this is large for me. But when it comes to maybe counting 3 or 4 towns in there, it's about the same cost.
Yeah.
We just don't have the logistics to do that, but we can as a team.
Yeah, I was going to say we can do it as a team. All right, I think we got a lot of good tips on elections and how to get the Republicans out, or just to get a Republican to win. What about actually, because I think one of the biggest things I've even noticed locally within my own RTC, the bigger my group gets, I'm starting to find people that would be good Republican candidates. So what are your thoughts on, of how do we find or recruit good Republican candidates?
All right, so here's the what we're doing. In particularly, I'm not an officer in my Bourne RTC, but I'm an active member, and I attend every meeting I can. If there's a conflict, my wife attends there, and I attend the other RTC. But generally, and we know because I'm always delivering the state committee reports to all my RTCs. Okay, so what are we doing? We are running people in local elections. Who would have thought just 10 years ago that being a trustee on the local library board would be important?
I'm running for that position.
Are you kidding me?
Yes, I am.
We need it because the people who are there are allowing these smut books and drag queen story hour to our kids, and this is nutty, and we got the Dems saying, what's wrong with this? If they can't articulate what's wrong with it, we're in serious trouble in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So it's important to get people on the trustee committee, the school committee, the Board of Health, the planning board, the appeals board, the finance committee, all those committees in town. We want to get our people in there. So number one, they represent our values. Number two, they're going to have their constituents in mind when they make decisions. Thirdly, they understand how boards and committees operate, and they become prime areas, the bench, if you will, for Republican candidates to run for state office and statewide offices or district-wide offices. So we have a pool of people now who are understanding the issues, know how committees work, and now we can run them for office, and they don't have to go in and for the first 6 months try to do on-the-job learning. They can be effective when they get sworn into office.
Right. So it's like they say, start local, right? So you get them into all those committees and then build them up higher.
And that's what we're doing in my district, and that's what he's doing with his regional meetings with the other RTC chairs.
And how's that working out?
It's got two fronts, Basically, what we're saying is this last 2 weeks, I've been scouring and calling people and asking them, who do we have to run? Who's going to run for state senate? We were Montigny was unopposed in my district last time, no candidate. We have somebody to run against Strauss, and we have somebody to run against in the other district going toward Fall River. We don't have a RTC at all, or CTC in New Bedford. We need to build that as a capability. No one seems to want to do that, but we have to do that. Point being is we need to get candidates.
Yeah.
Back to our earlier conversation, I don't know why myself, as someone who's on the RTC of Mattapoisett, is leading the charge to find candidates. I would think that my state committee people would be out telling us, who do you have, and or we have some people, what do you think? Let's get together, let's collectively get ready for the election. The election's 18, 19 months away.
I know.
We need to be doing this now.
That's
The
exactly right.
lesson that I learned from the last election, because we had started the party back really only about 6 months before the election. We didn't have enough time to get ready. Even though we did it, the people did a great job. They worked hard, and my hats are off to all the volunteers that helped us do that and the RTC members I'm with. If we had had more time, we could have done a better job for our candidate. So you take that and you combine it now with the idea of putting together a collective RTC
Yeah.
coalition. Now we can go to candidates and say, not only do we want you to run, and not only do we probably going to need some funding on your own, but we have some funding for you. We can raise money for you. Here's what we have. We have voter lists that make sense. We can show you where to go. We have the ability to talk to people, by door knocking, by texting, by phone. We have we have lists of signs to put up in yards, all those things that we can do. All this you don't have to do. We can do this for you. We need to get good candidates, and we need you to run. That we've never been able to offer to candidates before. I've been out in cars with them putting up signs. They have to do it. But they should really be out, doing the things that candidates do, which is meeting people, talking about their agendas. So if we can build this kind of base, then we can talk to people that maybe might be on the fence, but are great candidates, but say, no, I don't want to be part of something I know we can't win. So, boy, maybe we can win, and maybe I will join you. And that's, I think, a big difference that we can do. But I think also that's where the state committee, where are they right now? Where is our state leadership right now? Where are they asked us to get candidates, or any candidates on the line? Who are the people we should be talking to? I haven't heard a word.
Right. I was just thinking of another question too, because I know, because when I was, because my wife was running for the school committee here in Bridgewater in this past election that just happened. And as I was out, because I was out going talking to some of the just people in the town, and some of them I ran into a lot of Republicans. And I guess the question I have for both of you, because we still have a little bit of time here, is like those people seem to be silent. Like they just don't. They seem to be annoyed. Actually, one guy I met at the Middleborough Gun Club, and he was asking me questions, and I realized, and then I looked him up when I went home and realized he was a Republican, and he's just quiet. Like they don't say anything, they don't do anything. I mean, one of the reasons why I got active is just because I was tired of what I saw going on in the country in general, never mind in our hometowns. So what sort of advice could you give the other RTCs or other Republicans out there to maybe talk to them, get them active, motivated to do things? I don't know. What could we do?
Reach out to these people, do a mailing, even if it's a postcard mailing, to all the people that are out there, and just say, hey, this Republican town committee, this is for you. This is where you get to. This is where democracy has its grassroots, where it's based right in the town. Come on in. We'd love to have you come in. You don't have to be a member if you don't want to, but attend the meetings. Once you get into it, you like it, we're talking about issues that you're passionate about, then join up. How much does it cost? Nothing.
Right.
Some committees will ask for a voluntary
donation, yeah.
just so that they can have some money to function. Some places have to pay to have a facility to meet. In my district, I encourage my committees to meet in restaurants. Number one, it helps it helps the local businessman.
Oh, true.
Okay.
Yeah.
Plus, it's usually on a weeknight, so they can accommodate you, and they just as well will. And Republicans, so they have to. They're always ordering either drinks or some advertisement. Appetizers. But I got 3 towns that we have them in restaurants, and they have a room set off. And the way it works is the particular member brings his spouse out to dinner at the event, and he or she eventually winds up being a member.
Oh.
Because What wife or husband turns down an invitation to go out to dinner?
right.
And they start talking, and everybody gets a chance to give your 2 cents in the whole situation. And when I go, I absolutely love it. A lot of people will ask me specifically a question about this or that, and we have a forum. It's almost like talk radio, except it's amongst everybody there. We're already talking.
Yeah.
And most of them like participating because they get to ask questions and they wind up giving their view on issues. And later on, they wind up being active in somebody's campaign or running themselves.
All right, so I'm hearing mailings and entertainments of sort to get
A
people
postcard
together.
to pick a particular precinct. Get all your members to do maybe 15 or 20 postcards.
Okay.
Invite them to the next meeting. Ask them to respond online. Get a website to respond online that they're going to be there. So when
Okay.
it comes time, you have an idea, and just have a bunch of pizzas. Have a bunch of pizzas, a bunch of bottles of soda, and have them come in.
Okay.
Yeah, kind of relate to also kind of a local thing, and this is a thing that happened actually in our last meeting about 4 weeks ago. We have a person who joined the meeting, registered Republican. Their name, Mattapoisett has been around a long time. Their name, family name, is on one of the streets, major streets in our town. Came to our meeting and was supporting our 2 candidates. We've got David Pierre running for Mattapoisett School Board, and we've got Rich Riley, who's a great candidate as well. Both of them running for the Orr School Board. He sat there and came and supports. I'm here to support you. So Rich said to him, "Would you put our signs up on your lawn?" He sat down and he goes, "I can't." He goes, "Why?" "My wife and my son have asked me not to do that." "Why?" "My son is afraid, since he's done so well in school, that if teachers see the sign on our lawn, that they will not give him the recommendations he needs to get into the kind of college he wants to get into." And he said, "I know I feel bad, you've been my friends, but I can't do that." And what I'm saying to this is the reason for that is because the Republican Party in our town hasn't been strong. Democratic Party has been basically bullying us, calling people's names. I'm a book burner, who's a MAGA Republican, who hates this, and that. All the hate seems to be coming from their side, but we're the haters.
Right.
However, if there's no party to support you, then why are you going to go out on a limb? So one of the things that's happening in this election with the school board is people are crossing the line and they're getting involved. And so the idea is that now they're involved because they'll do it for their children. To Jay's point, now what we have to do is go back and follow up on all these people who are Republicans and or leaners, who we pretty much think are basically Republican voters, and follow up and contact them. Bring them in. We can't get 1,000 people in, but boy, if we can contact 150 key people and get 30 or 40 more members to be part of what we're doing.
Yeah.
And the way you do it is just as you said, you contact them, you call them, you invite them, you find ways to entice them. And then when they get to your meeting, you better have a damn good meeting. Don't bore them to death with
Right,
a bunch
right.
of junk and garbage.
Good
Rather
point.
than being on an agenda,
Yep.
here's how we're going to win the next election.
Yeah,
Here's what we need you to do.
Right, make sure you have some structure to the meeting and
Yeah.
get some points across. And
Give them an assignment.
yeah, I also, when I first started at the RTC, I didn't really know what I was doing. I like, especially if new people come, I like to give them a little bit of an understanding of what to expect because it's all about learning. Because otherwise, they don't know why they're there,
Yep.
and understand what committees do. Because that was something else I had to learn.
So, is it
Like
kind of
meaning
interesting?
the state committee level, as well as what the local is doing. And it took me a while to learn that, but I think it's important for new people coming in that they almost given a little bit of a card on understanding exactly what the committees do.
I'm somewhat lucky. My dad, I grew up in, 2 things. My dad loved sports and he loved politics. So I grew up going to ball games, playing ball games with him, and going to RTC meetings. So I always had kind of an idea from the early age of 5 years old what was supposed to do with so bad and good.
So is that how you became a good talker?
Yeah, a little bit. I born with that part of the family genetics.
Yeah, but
but
he's also a sales guy. He and I both make our money by talking. We convince him.
But what you get out of it though is that for most people, the idea that running an RTC was a challenge for me, even though I had been part RTCs in 2 or 3 different states, Connecticut, Texas, and in North Carolina. And by the way, people say things can't happen. Well, when I was in North Carolina, they took over the House, they took over the Senate, and they took over the governorship. It was the first time that they had all 3 branches. They never had the Senate and the House since basically the end of the Civil War.
Wow.
So people say it can't be done.
It can be.
It can be done. It just required a lot of hard work and a lot of great people working hard to do that. But back to the issue at hand, what it comes down to is basically you have to have a reason for people to be where they're going and doing what doing the things that they feel are necessary to change. And when you sit in a room and there's no organization or there's no assignments,
Yeah,
no
then
things,
nothing's going to get done.
yeah, I mean, it becomes a social club, and it
Yeah.
can't be a social club.
Yeah.
Our job is really simple as RTCs. Our job is really very one thing: elect Republican candidates. You want to debate, there's time at the bar before or after, or wherever you want to sit in the parking lot and have those conversations. But our job is to figure out how to elect Republican candidates. Any time spent other than that is really not on target.
Okay. All right. What about some closing remarks there, Jay? Just about everything in general we talked about. I mean, we went through quite a bit here as
We
far
did. It
as
was
the
a good,
committee,
yeah.
how to get Republicans elected. We talked about trying to get Republican candidates in our committees too. I think it's all great. So what have you got for some closing remarks here?
Well, my closing remark would be, folks, if you are tired of seeing craziness on Beacon Hill or craziness in City Hall or Town Hall, if you're tired of seeing people living fantasies and making us agree with them, if you're tired of seeing your tax dollars being spent on just crazy ideas while we got potholes in the streets, while we got vacancies on our police departments and fire departments that we can't fill, you're getting tired of mandates from people on high, unproven mandates to do certain things that that the science doesn't support, then you need to get some common sense candidates. You have to get behind them and support them. Now, Republicans, and dare I say conservative Republicans, care for you, care for what your children are being taught in schools, and care where your tax dollars are going, and care for your public safety. We're focused on those items as opposed to the absolute craziness that you're seeing on Beacon Hill and in some city and town halls. So if you care about your community, if you care about your police department and your fire department, your public safety, if you care about the quality of education that your children are receiving in the public schools, you go to your local Republican town committee, you join there, and you make them know what your feelings are on these issues. You will find people who think just like you there and that want to elect candidates just like that. And you help them and you help those candidates, and we will see a change in this Commonwealth. It's going to take some time, but the people are out there. We just need to reach them and convince them that all is not lost, and we can work hard to change the culture in this Commonwealth.
And you, Paul?
I'm going to use what I used last night at the Westport RTC meeting. And by the way, Evan Gendreau is their RTC chair. He is a rising star, I believe, in the GOP.
Oh,
no
really?
one's reaching out to him locally from the state committees, but you can see talent. That's what I do. I ran corporations. You see talent, you have to do it. This is a talent, and we need to make sure people like him are being noticed. Side issue, but the thing that I told them is this. I said, have you heard the song by Aaron Lewis called Am I the Only One? Have you ever heard it? Many of us feel the way. Am I the only one out there that thinks the way, that I see statues being pulled down,
I know
flags
I
on
love
fire?
that song.
Yeah, exactly. And you probably all do. We're kind of the faithful. We're the small group in the room. But there are a lot of people out there that need to be in this room and would like to be in this room, but don't know that they can because no one, like that fellow that won't put the sign up on his yard, feels that they're going to be penalized for being a Republican. So we have to build a party, and we will build a party, and we will support candidates. And better news is coming for all of us if we get together. So all of you leave here with a smile on your face that the Republican Party is going to come back and it's going to grow. And whether it starts in the South Coast or the North, the East, or the West, it's going to happen. And we all have to be a part of that. So take faith and work hard, and we will win.
Yeah, about the sign, and I don't know. I always look at it because I always think of, America the Brave, Land of the Free. These people just have to be brave and do it and stand up. And that's what I always think about. And I'm like, I don't know, that's why I'm here. I just wanted to just go for it.
We got the message earlier. We're the early adapters, right?
Yeah.
And early adapters always are ahead of the group. And I think what you're seeing again with the people joining our party and the spirit they have, something is happening inside this party.
Okay.
Our state committees and our leaders are not wanting to recognize these people. But everybody that's coming in our door is not a moderate Republican or a Rockefeller Republican. Mm-hmm. They are conservative Republicans, and they need to be acknowledged.
One last thing, Peter. You know, the leadership has to recognize that Massachusetts is hemorrhaging the population. We are losing 1,000 people a week, packing up all their belongings, all their assets, and taking them down south to a handful of states, handful of red states, and that's where they're going.
Are they these business people? Or?
Yes, business people, millionaires, a lot of them millionaires. Millionaires know they can take off, they'll be able to sell that mansion, take off, take their businesses, go somewhere in Florida where they got favorable tax treatment, where they're not going to be called millionaires, even though they're only making about $400,000 or $500,000 a year, and being whacked with taxes. This is the craziness that is going on in this state. We need to address this full force, but we are hemorrhaging population.
I heard New Hampshire got quite a few phone calls too for business people, just because they're trying to figure out the tax structure up there because of that millionaire tax.
If you're a real millionaire, you're going to Florida. If you're not quite a real millionaire, you're going up to New Hampshire.
Okay.
Think of it this way, right? If you're a dentist, right,
Yeah.
or you're a chiropractor, you have a practice. You sell your business. You're not living a millionaire's life.
Right.
The one thing you've built is your business, and you sell it. You sell it for $1.5 million or $2 million.
And you're gonna pay that 4%.
You got to pay, yeah. You got to pay all that. You know what you're really saying is that basically you're being penalized for the success of being a small businessman in America.
And never mind the people you probably employed.
Yeah. And I know one person who ran for office who's thinking about moving to Florida because of that.
Wow.
You know.
All right. All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate you coming.
Thank you, Peter.
Thanks,
Thank
Jay.
you for having
Thanks,
us.
Paul.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Okay.